All right, so welcome for the second installment of Exploring the Non-Fungible Blockchain Ecosystem. Today we have a great panel, great lineup. We have Devin Finzer from OpenSea. We have Alex Selnikov from Rarible. Marguerite joined us today, joining us just now. And James Wade. Wow. I'm sorry, how do you pronounce that?
Wow.
Wow, okay. All right, so there's been a lot of things happening recently in the NFT space. And so why don't we start off and give just a quick introduction. I know last time some of the panelists were here, but Devin, why don't you lead us off?
Oh, sorry, with introduction of myself or of, what was the question?
Yeah, just yourself.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so my name is Devin Finzer. I'm one of the co-founders of OpenSea. We're a marketplace for non-fungible tokens. We basically allow people to kind of buy and sell these digital assets in a variety of ways using different auction mechanics, bundles, being able to sell in other currencies. And we service all sorts of different NFT projects, from digital art to games to collectibles to DeFi NFTs as well.
Oh, wonderful. Marguerite, if you wouldn't mind.
Hey guys, Marguerite, also known as an artist. I recently launched a creator token called Coin. I am the CEO of Blockchain Games. We are building blockchain gaming applications that use non-fungible tokens and traditional cryptocurrency. I like that I just said traditional cryptocurrency. Anyways, yeah, my company is very experimental and focused on pushing the limits of what we can do with everything gaming, DeFi, and creative assets.
Oh, nice. Alex, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm Alexander Salnikov. I'm co-founder and CPO at Rarible. We kind of came probably the latest to the market in terms of NFT issuance platforms and marketplaces. Yeah, kind of growing fast. We are issuance first and marketplace second platform. So if you haven't had any NFT before, just hop in on Rarible, create the first one and sell it right away.
All right, nice. And James?
So I work at Secret Foundation, which is focused on growing Secret Network and its ecosystem. We're all about privacy for blockchains, but I've also helped organize events related to NFTs, and I'm an avid collector and evangelist of non-fungible tokens for all different use cases. So I'm really excited about this conversation.
Oh, wonderful. All right, well, let's get it going. So in the first series, we went over some of the more basic concepts of NFTs and how design criteria in approaching them. Today, we're going to go into some of the more recent kind of developments in this space. There's been a lot of activity. So to start it off, I'm curious to know what you guys, if you've seen that Christie's auctioned off the first NFT yesterday. So it was the first major auction house to auction an NFT. They were originally estimating that the value would be somewhere between 12 and 18,000, and it ended up selling for over 130. So I think it's important from crossing over into the mainstream and creating awareness, but also legitimizes what's happening in this space. So Alex, why don't you kick us off on this one?
You meant me?
Yeah.
Sure. So I think at first, like, big congratulations to I think Arts for creating the piece. They done a really great job to promote basically this segment to the mass audience. And I think NFT just exploded recently. Partly that's just because I think DeFi guys discovered the space. It was kind of like quietly growing for the last year or so, and now with like the first signs of marrying DeFi and NFT, they all hop into the space and started like poured a lot of capital in it, so that a lot of stuff actually got in price, some like CryptoPunks or anything else, and people suddenly realized that NFT is an asset class, and if it's an asset class, that means you can invest in them. So that's basically resulted in this frenzy around this particular sale. Yeah, I think that's in general what happened behind it.
Okay. So Devin, I don't know if you have any take on the auction scene right now.
No, I would agree with that. I think, yeah, one of the exciting things that has happened over the last even just a couple months is that there's been some pretty interesting projects that have kind of intersected DeFi and NFTs. I think Meme was a particularly interesting one where they added a yield farming dynamic where you could mint, you could create NFTs by staking tokens. So yeah, I think like it's interesting to see. It felt, I guess one interesting thing was it felt a little bit random, like that all of a sudden NFTs were popular. Like, there wasn't one single thing that really like led to it happening. It was more of just like a bunch of infrastructure having been built out over the last couple of years, and then you know, a combination of DeFi kind of cooling down and some of these platforms getting more mature. But it's definitely, yeah, it's a really, I mean, it's starting to be a really exciting space for a lot of people, and more people are coming in. I think the auction is kind of representative of that trend.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of the things, so with that is this new kind of mechanics that are happening around NFT wrapping. And so there are some platforms right now that are wrapping NFTs that are kind of combining fungible tokens with non-fungible tokens, providing additional liquidity and some kind of base layer of value. So I'm curious to get your guys' take on some of this, and maybe even from an exchange's perspective, how does that change, you know, how you go about processing those transactions or facilitating engagement with that kind of asset? Alex, why don't you kick us off again?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, the latest development of wrapping CryptoPunks happened mostly by the technical reasons. So originally, the banks, they aren't like exactly compliant to RC 721 standard. That's why they had to wrap them to be able to sell them at Rarible or OpenSea or any other place. That was the reason behind it. But overall, in wrapping, I believe that people again suddenly realize that NFT is a cool standard. You can represent a lot of cool stuff as NFTs, and that's why people are testing. They're wrapping everything inside NFTs and try to sell it. And if it sells, then it was successful.
All right, James, how about you weigh in on this one?
So I think, you know, NFTs represent the other end of the spectrum of Bitcoin maximalism, because we have this pluralism accentuated by the creativity in the space. You have so many ERC20 tokens, but it's not as creative, and there's not as much reason for so many tokens. And, you know, thinking about wrapped tokens, I remember the refundable token standard Billy Rennekamp introduced a while back, and there's a lot of different use cases for that being discussed, but I haven't really seen anything practical yet. I'd be really excited to see that come together though.
Nice. Devin, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this idea of wrapping is partially like more of a technical thing. Like it's, yeah, with CryptoPunks, it was really just to make it interoperable. But there's also this idea of turning the non-fungible fungible. So we've now seen several wrapped NFT projects. The earliest was Wrapped CryptoKitties, which basically let you exchange a NFT CryptoKitty for an ERC20 token. And that meant that you sort of had all the compatibility with token exchanges like Uniswap, for example. So yeah, I mean, I think it's people sort of realizing that there's sort of a bunch of different standards right now. Getting them to all interoperate often requires some kind of messing around and wrapping dynamics. But you know, it's all super interesting sort of experimentation with how to make these things more liquid and more tradable.
Okay, and Marguerite, what are your thoughts on wrapping?
Sure. Like recently, it was just brainstorming about with game assets, and if you wanted to, for example, you could wrap if you wanted to like make them tradable like CryptoKitties did and have a marketplace, then you could have, for example, Neon District. My game that we're working on is Neon District. You wrap Neon District assets, and then it would have a pair, and then you could then take that further and stake these wrapped assets and give them a DeFi mechanic. But I guess like we're gonna see people. I don't know. We were just talking about nesting as well, which is the reverse of this, where you put things inside the NFT. I think people are just going to do really cool crap and see what people like. So as far as technically though, like the reasons to have a fungible token, the reason that you would do that is so that they all operate the same. They all have the same mechanic when you interact with the contracts.
Okay, so changing some of the standards in the way that it can be interoperated with, and kind of bundling as well. James, what are your thoughts on wrapping?
Well, going back to me, I thought of the use case of wrapping NFTs for privacy, which I should have mentioned. I think that would be a practical use case for wrapping NFTs. It adds value to the NFT, but some kind of ERC20 that represents a fractional ownership of NFT on Ethereum, for example, that could be really interesting as well. And I'm sure people are exploring all kinds of cool stuff with the nesting, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, thank you. So Marguerite, I know, let's talk about some social tokens. So I know you recently have launched yours. And so I was just curious, what some of the motivations behind it were, what some of the design decisions you had to make within the mechanics of that, and how that's going.
Yeah, so coin is basically, people are calling this type of token, it's like social money, personal token, or I'm getting some feedback. I don't know who, but anyways, so, or creator token. We've seen,
Thomas, could you maybe mute your mic?
Yeah.
Not sure if it's you.
So because of that, we've seen a really great example of a creator enter the space recently. The musical artist RAC has just launched his token called RAC, and he is, like me, doing token controlled access in our discords. And he just put out a NFT yesterday that is an MP4. It's a video and also has the sound file for his with his music. So I'm really excited about how we can, as creators, engage our communities in a more intimate ways where they're participating in the success of your work and the value you are creating. But you're also, if you look at a creator token, almost like a tool that you can empower your community to also add value and realize the success of the value they are contributing. I felt the pain point when I launched Blockade Games, that I wasn't on the same playing field anymore with my community. I felt the barrier there. And so Coin was my way to try to bridge the gap and find other ways. For example, like when you are staking coin right now, you are farming coin and cred. So cred is going to be this opportunity to have in-game experiences in the Neon District universe for being a liquidity provider for coin. So being someone that has contributed value to the coin ecosystem, then we can honor and reward through cred in this way. So coin is capped. It's also designed so that there's a lot of opportunity for development as well as incentives and rewards around the distribution model. It is capped at 3.74 million, so there's not very much of it. But for example, cred is uncapped. So we can determine based on the market and demand how much cred can be allowed to enter at any given time with different campaigns. You're muted, Thomas.
All right, so from an exchange perspective, I'm curious to know, Alex and Devin, with what you're seeing recently, are there any different stats or behaviors you're seeing within how people are using the platform or requests that are coming in? So Alex, why don't you kick us off?
Yep, sure. Well, I think the big part of Rarible is an unlockable part of the NFTs that you can put inside an NFT, any piece of information that will be revealed to the new owner. And that gives us a lot of hints about how people do want to use NFTs in the future. So it's use case agnostic right now, but like we definitely see how people use it. A lot of people put audio NFTs and video NFTs in it, so inside or any like a physical basically instruction on how to get the physical copy. So I believe that we can count this as a request to implement as a feature. And of course, people are always asking something on Twitter. Right now, we're definitely outgrown this simple, like a straight away feed for all of the NFTs. So just today we introduced categories. That was also a big ask for us.
Oh, nice. And Devin, how about you? Where are you seeing any difference in how users are operating on your platform, or any requests that are coming in from content creators?
Yeah, I think like better exploration, discovery experiences for NFTs has been a big one for us. So we'll be introducing some better features around that, where people can like drill into different categories and kind of see just specific types of NFTs if they want to. The other big one has been just better like analytics and tracking for the market. So being able to kind of see like feeds of what things are selling at what prices and sort of the general trend lines. So we've added a lot of features recently around seeing the average price of a particular collection over time. So you can go into, for example, the CryptoPunks collection and see the growth of that market from, you know, basically the original sales, which were all for free. And then there were some sales in the lower ETH values, and then up to today when, you know, we're seeing like these CryptoPunks sell for 1 or 2 ETH. We also just launched a brand new individual asset page that shows the price history of a particular item over time. Really cool to check out for the meme assets, which are these semi-fungible assets that actually have a higher frequency of sale for each particular one. So you can see like the trend lines and kind of get a sense of like where the direction that the market for a particular asset is heading. So we're super excited about that. We just launched that yesterday. We also launched better moderation tools. So allowing people to flag things that are fraudulent, or so that are basically NFTs that are representing some other NFT project, but not actually the original. And yeah, we'll be introducing a bunch of exciting stuff in the future as well. You're muted.
Nice. Yep. So, so, you know, looking at some of the use cases, I think NFTs and live experiences, when you have some kind of keepsake. So, for instance, at Yellowheart, we're looking at digital ticket stubs, and those digital ticket stubs being long tail engagement, right, where it gives you access to content and potentially other experiences. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on the role of NFTs and potentially this kind of access to either content or the correlation to real world experiences. James, why don't you kick us off?
So I think we're always looking for demand, you know, trying to build markets for NFTs, the new category. And we often think of demand as purchases on marketplaces. So NFTs getting bought. But I think demand could also be thought of as demand for creating NFTs. And when you think about the NFT experiences, that's where like the more flexible and complex structures we were talking about earlier come into play. So it's really exciting to think about all the possibilities for representing experiences with non-fungible tokens. And you know, I have a collection of art and other tokens on Ethereum, and it's public. You know, if you know my public address, you can see the tokens if you go to the right place. And I can prove that I own them. But with experiences, you might not want that information to be public. You might have a non-fungible token that represents where you were at a certain time, and you only want certain parties to know that information. So with secret NFTs representing experiences, you could share viewing keys with particular individuals that you want to know that's your item, and you can prove it to them, but nobody else can know that you own that specific item. So I'm really excited about that use case because it aligns with our secret NFT concept, but I've always been fascinated by the concept of NFTs as a form of reputation. And Marguerite mentioned cred earlier. I'm fascinated by that as well. You know, all the different ways to incentivize contributions to projects which add value to the economy and society overall.
Nice. So any particular comments on either use cases or I like the idea of the security and public versus private and so Devin, any thoughts on interesting use cases you're seeing come up, or also on security and privacy around NFTs and how they're traded?
Interesting features in terms of privacy and security. Not really. I mean, there's the unlockable NFTs. I don't know if that really counts as privacy. I think I'm curious to hear other people's perspectives, but it's basically sort of like a completely public network that we're working on right now. Even if you try to, you can definitely obscure certain pieces of it, and you can like create lockable things, which is super interesting. But for the most part, the theme has been sort of like everything's public by default, and then you sort of work in that type of environment while things are early. But I know that there are a lot of sort of pretty early projects that are building privacy into blockchains. But my sense is that those types of primitives aren't really going to be like available in a way that will actually apply to the NFT space for a while. But I just am not as I'm not super familiar with like the status of those projects. So curious to hear other people's views.
Yeah. So Alex, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, sure. Regarding the experience NFTs, that's a first question, but I think an interesting part to this is to use NFT is the way to enter a specific room or environment inside metaverse. I heard about something like that, and I really think that's cool to be part of a secret club that allows you to just be in it when you have a specific NFT. Sounds really cool to me. And regarding the secret NFTs, yeah. So I've been asked about this previously, and I think, like in general, you don't want to hide that you own some NFTs because, well, it kind of like sounds cool that I own it, and I can even show off, and that's what people usually do for it. But there is always an idea to have like the second part of the NFT that is hidden, and like the way we do with Unlockable now. And I really like what you guys are doing. I don't think there is much like there is maybe New Cipher did something like that with proxy encryption. So there is no the way to hide something right now on the internet, on the blockchain. It's all public, and the idea to have something in private is very powerful. I think that's the next step in general for the blockchain.
Nice. Marguerite, how about you?
So am I allowed to deviate a little bit into creative use cases? Okay. So, like, I've been thinking about, I wasn't sure if I was going to share this publicly or not because I like to make crypto puzzles, and I was thinking about using this as a mechanic in the near future, but I'll just share it anyway. So the idea that you could take something like an OpenSea bundle and have secret recipes of what needs to be contained within the OpenSea bundle, and then you could then stake it. And when you stake it, you're going to be farming something secretive, you'll be farming a token that when you then play the Neon District application would give you access to secret Easter egg levels that you otherwise wouldn't have access to. So you can then require that people have to have certain assets that they could have only obtained in the Neon District application to be in that bundle, which meaning they were like a committed user, committed player. And I think that idea of composability of NFTs, what we can require people to do as far as incentivizations basically to complete steps, which will then add value to a network, is something that we're all actively working on right now with the concepts of money Legos. And then another use case, though, that's more directly related to NFTs is, and DeFi, is song farming. Like, I love this idea that you could get a unique song or sound bite. And then if you have this token in your wallet, when you're playing Neon District, you will have access to a curated song library from the assets you've collected. And in Neon District, it's PvP. So let's say you are about to deploy a power move from one of your characters that's going to obliterate the opponent. As soon as they hear the beat drop, when you select, you're allowed to select this, play a certain song with this particular turn, they're going to hear the beat drop and the music's all going to change and they're going to know like a big blow is coming. This scales to the idea that you could have voiceovers. You can make your characters say different things based on tokens you've collected, different actions, different, like if you think of Fortnite and how people love collecting, the dances. All of this stuff is possible. And then when you also add the fact of farming and DeFi, we can play with tokens as real tools to build these microeconomies around all these different types of users we have. Not everybody is a power, going to want to just hardcore play the game. Some people are going to love crafting and going to become a crafting specialist. So yes, I think there's a lot of opportunity to start thinking about our different types of users, looking at what people really are finding sticky in the space. And we're going to see a lot of iteration, prototyping, I think, very quickly here in the near future, especially when talking about meme and how people love farming for NFTs. I think people will be rolling out additional small, low-hanging fruit game mechanics on top of that experience to also give value to these NFTs that they're farming, additional utility.
Okay, very nice. I like that too. The idea of potentially having NFTs that I could gain through other channels, but once I bring them into the game, it changes some kind of the mechanics, or my figure has a different dance or songs are playing. Right, that's really cool. All right, so going into the idea of some of the new DAOs that have been created, like the Punk Fund, where they're using combinations of mechanics like wrapping, but otherwise, like Wearable, I know, has a governance token that was also launched. So curious to get your insight on that. So Alex, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, awesome. I actually haven't heard about the Punk Fund. Is it the spin-off of Arc Gallery or Arc DAO? But anyway, just shoot in the comments if you know. Well, in general, again, I started my talk from saying that people suddenly realized that NFTs are an asset class. So if it's an asset class, then you can have a fund that invests in that asset class. I'm personally a big fan of just having a real estate fund inside metaverses. I would definitely do something like this if I see one. I would put my money in it because, well, it's awesome. Having the real estate on the internet, it's what we never had before.
All right, so Devin, what are your thoughts on DAOs and NFTs, and how does that either play into your world, or what's your take on it?
Well, I'm not as familiar with all of the, I've seen Punk Fund, but I'm not familiar with all of the different DAOs that are out there. I know there's, it seems like there's kind of an early blossoming of this space. I know Flamingo DAO is launching something related to sort of a fund for NFTs. But I think it's interesting. I mean, I think the other space that people have talked about for a really long time that's sort of related is this idea of a token curated registry. And a while back, 0x, what was it? District 0x launched a project that was also related to memes called Meme Factory. And it was just really early, there was not a lot of activity in the space at that time. And everything was on chain, so the user experience wasn't really that great. And there wasn't sort of this primitive of yield farming that people were familiar with. But it was this token curated registry type system where, you could submit a meme and someone could vote for whether it makes it into the minting pool, or you could like slash if you thought that it was a fraudulent piece of work or something like that. So I think that idea is sort of ripe for another iteration now, now that we have a lot more infrastructure and things are a lot more mature and you can kind of build off stuff. So those types of DAOs where the DAO actually controls the supply of these rare NFTs, I think that concept is super interesting. And I don't know anyone offhand who is building that, but I'm sure that it's like on people's minds to some extent. So yeah, I think it's all really cool stuff.
Okay, great. So now I'm curious to know from your perspective, when you look at the community around your projects, and looking at, right now, because of the, it's kind of enthusiasts are because of the learning curve and things that we're well aware of, you have to be either more interested in from a speculation standpoint or more interested in it from a technology perspective to really invest the time to get familiar with it. What have you seen related to the community around your projects and how you engage with them, or how you continue to curate that? Marguerite, why don't you kick us off?
Yes, well, I mean, I think having Coin has made it really easy for me. And now it's actually so funny that in 2014, I was paying people in Bitcoin to do some work for me. And now I can give them my own token to do work, and it has value, enough liquidity that they can go sell it for that work. So doing things like, for example, having an idea, we're putting together the Coin Vault right now. It's a NFT farming initiative that we'll be doing, and also it's designed in a way to support the artistic community that resonate with our cyberpunk ethos. But I guess like with the incentivizations and the DAOs and these structures, their communities are still pretty small. So I rather move quickly and that's why I'm the boss of my syndicate. So I can just call the shot at the end of the day, but I still listen to what the community wants to do. I don't know if I totally answered your question, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah, no, that's good. So James, how about for you? I know the Secret project is kicking off, but it seems like there's a strong community already. If you want to kind of give any insight into what you're seeing and how you're engaging with them.
Yeah, so our project isn't specifically focused on NFTs only, or you could think of it like a private Ethereum. We have privacy preserving secret smart contracts, or just secret contracts, and we have a history. The team behind the project is known as Enigma. And, in February of this year, we launched our mainnet as a community, and it was rebranded from the Enigma blockchain to Secret Network later this year. And it's really confusing, I know, but it's actually reflecting the true nature of our decentralized organization, which is the Secret Network. And Secret Foundation, the organization which I work for, is just one entity within that overall ecosystem. And we're responsible for growing the ecosystem and marketing projects. We also coordinate with our committees. So that's been a really successful initiative, organizing committees for members of the community to participate and contribute, in those structures. But we're still figuring out the processes. It's always dynamic. And, our native coin Secret is for governance among other uses like staking and fees on the network. So you could think of Secret as a governance token if you want. But we're all about progressive decentralization, and we've made a ton of progress this year. And I really encourage anyone to check out what we've been doing since earlier this year.
Nice. So Devin, I know when you think about community, I'm sure you have a wide spectrum ranging from content creators, NFT enthusiasts, whales, people that are really on the speculative side. What for you, how do you look at the role of community and how you engage with them, and how does that inform whether it's the priority of features and kind of the roadmap of OpenSea? If you could shed any insight into that.
Sure. Yeah. So I would say that we have, like, in the NFT space as a whole, there's maybe you could categorize 3 groups of users, broadly speaking, but then within that, there's like obviously massive other ways to categorize it, other niches. But you basically have developers, you have power sellers, and then you have your like more casual users, right? And all three of those really like play into each other. So for example, for OpenSea, we've been pretty focused over the last couple of years building really good developer integrations so that it's a lot easier to deploy an NFT, a lot easier to add metadata to the NFT and get it showing up on a variety of places. So that's been a huge thing. So we have a pretty vibrant community of developers who are like experimenting with NFTs, and we often serve as like kind of the first place people go when they're thinking about building a new NFT project and setting up sort of a basic storefront where people can buy and sell. And then obviously there's the users of the platform who are like engaging with these new projects. And we have several ways that we like listen to user feedback. Our Discord is pretty happening. And we also have a big board of suggestions that people have made about like what features they want to see. So those are the primary ways. We don't currently have a governance token. So we don't have that at the moment. But we found that like it's a pretty early space, and we've been able to kind of do the right things for users by just paying a lot of attention and kind of interacting with them on a daily basis.
Awesome. So I'm curious to know, for other builders and people out there that are interested, what are some of the challenges that you're facing today, and what is your biggest pain points? If we could go around and comment on that. Marguerite, if you want to kick us off.
Well, I think, currently the bottleneck with having applications directly built on top of Ethereum for on-chain activity is really expensive. So getting users to adopt these second layer networks that still bridge to Ethereum and being really active on them. So like, for example, Neon District is on Matic. We're yet to see what that's actually going to look like as far as how many Ethereum users we can bridge over to using the Ethereum or the Matic network. While it's a demand that people like hate the gas fees, users are also super lazy. So there will be maybe a tipping point where gas fees are just too much, and everyone has to use layer 2 network. So I guess that for me is in thinking about how we're going to onboard, because asking people to do these additional steps to use another network, that's a high friction point.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, how about you? What are you facing in terms of biggest pain points, or what do you see in the industry overall?
Okay, I'm not sure you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
It's breaking up.
Question?
Okay, awesome. So, well, right now, we had a massive spike in terms of usage, and people are a little bit upset about lack of support, about lack of curation and verification and moderation tools. Basically, that's just a result of the recent growth that like highlighted some weak points. And we are going to solve this using our community help. We have a great community of like 20,000 people in total. We have a governance token. So something interesting in terms of community interaction and reporting and verification is coming.
Okay. James, how about you?
So I think our biggest challenge is driving awareness. We've got live secret contracts on our mainnet, and we're introducing a bridge to Ethereum soon, and we're communicating to the Ethereum community and others. Enigma was building a layer 2 solution for privacy and scalability and opted for a layer 1 blockchain that can interoperate with any and all blockchains to provide the encryption services in a decentralized manner with our own consensus. And it's been a much better approach in terms of reception from potential users and developers. So we're just in the early stages of building apps on mainnet, having just introduced the capability, and that's our main challenge, is just communicating to Ethereum's community that we're here to help, and we're not moving away from Ethereum by any means. We're just taking a different approach that enables secret network to work with any and all blockchains.
Okay, nice. So in terms of having NFTs, right? So we talk about the utility that they may have in unlocking a door, a keepsake from a real world experience that you've had, an in-game, asset or mechanic. What about how to display them? Or is there any other aspect of, when you have an NFT, what is the best way to either, is it social signaling? Would it be having some kind of digital art frame in your house? What do you see in terms of how to present the NFTs that you own, and if you know of anything being developed currently around that? Devin, kick us off.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty cool I think there's a couple projects that are working on something physical that you can display in your house. I've heard a lot of people, especially people who are new to the NFT space, asking for that type of thing. Even I guess it's a little bit surprising to me because, technically you could just get the image and you could display it in your house. And I don't know, I'm more excited about the digital native use cases where you're like displaying it in your crypto voxels world or like displaying it in Decentraland. But that being said, I think when talking to like my friends about NFTs, that's actually something that comes up pretty often is like, can I display it on my wall? Even if, you can do that without having to own it. So I think that's going to be huge. And I don't know what the status of those various projects. I know Nifty Gateway was working on something related to that seemed pretty cool. And then I also think that the virtual world projects are starting to really blossom. I went on like a Crypto Voxels art tour where there were all these really cool installations of art, and some of them were using 3D models, and people would like be able to buy the art right there and then if they wanted to. And there was this whole, very kind of like cypherpunk underground community around it, but that does seem like an area that just continues to get better and better. And Decentraland kind of similarly is just building tons of stuff. So yeah, I think it's like a combination of like being able to display these things in the real world, being able to display them in virtual worlds, and then having like extra utility associated with the asset as well. That's kind of like icing on the cake. So for example, I know Meme, their latest mining pool, when you mined one of the newer LA Blockchain Week items, you actually got a ticket to an exclusive Telegram group where you could talk to people. So that was sort of this like very primitive, simple utility baked into the NFT. So I think those types of things are also going to like move things forward a bit.
That's great. Alex, how about you? In terms of displaying NFTs and outside of the utility factor within a purely digital environment, what are you seeing in terms of either what people want or any innovation that's happening currently?
Well, I definitely think people want to display NFTs. That's a clear social signaling. When I own this piece for $10,000, it's totally cool. And again, there are two types of display. One is purely digital, and I think in order to do that, like we need to go to the metaverse, crypto voxel again, or maybe some like VR game, if we call it a little bit futuristic. But on the other hand, I'm still big fan of just physical display. I think Async Art created an app for your Samsung TV or Apple TV that allow you to display your NFTs. I think that's really cool, although the apps aren't that great on when displayed on TVs. And I think it's definitely a cool idea to create an offline exhibition where there will be a lot of NFTs, maybe rotated by some cycle, and each of them would have the owner of it, like the current owner, and maybe a QR code to purchase it, something like this can drive awareness. I don't know, is there any NFT in Fortnite?
You said, is there any NFT in Fortnite?
Yeah, like someone just recently did a concert inside it. Maybe that's the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Inside of these digital environments. Thank you. So Marguerite, in terms of the gaming community and ecosystem, what are you seeing in terms of social signaling or how people want to display those NFTs?
Well, I can tell you, as being just a crypto voxels user, I have gone to OpenSea and gone through the pain point of being like, no, I just want to look at all the crypto voxel pants that are available to buy right now for my avatar. And so like that kind of curation of the shopping experience, like I know that that's probably in the works, but being able to shop for my virtual like characters, and then also like I could see this scaling to your virtual spaces. Like I want to look at all potential like if I'm decorating a like I want all the chairs for, because I want in my virtual space, I want a chair in this particular like spot. So like online shopping for these metaverse assets is going to be an interesting experience. I think that there's like, I like as a game development company thinking about how do we make toys that could also encompass a private key that you could buy in a store and then like redeem and then play with the asset in virtually. And then in ways where like maybe it's more valuable because it hasn't been opened, kind of like an old school Kialara or the, what were they called, the Crustaceous tokens. And then like, I guess in Neon District, we'll be thinking a lot about virtual real estate, your what we call a hideout, which is where you stash all your stuff, how you want to experience like the things you've collected, how can you show it off? Showing off socially is one of the biggest driving factors. That's why, for example, with Fortnite, with the skins and the dances and everything, you don't want to be a default. So how can you strut your swag in a way that, and show it off, especially if it's a virtual space, across different social medias or even across the application where people can experience it. In a 3D environment like CryptoVoxels or Decentraland, that's more straightforward. But how do you get to these different places to show it off? Like, is it a matter of just someone wandering through your space? Or can people like, can it be done in a way that you're selling things directly from your space? It's almost like your space is a storefront. People can navigate the space that way and discover you. You could have a higher chance of being discovered, I guess. So thinking about those user experiences.
Nice. And James, do you have anything to add to that?
All really cool ideas. I'll throw in an idea about secret display, or going back to the unlockables conversation, because in addition to secret NFTs, we have another product called Secret Vaults for that use case, which we call programmable access control. And of course, you have your private key on Ethereum, which you can use to unlock stuff. But once you do that, it's shareable, and that's attack vector. But more importantly, you can't store and use those private keys in a smart contract on Ethereum, of course, because it's public. So secret contracts enable you to have kind of like sub keys, which you can use and actually generate in a private way within the secret contract. And that enables more complex ways to manage content and unlock audio or video so that you can do sort of like streaming payments, for example, or it's applicable to the virtual reality metaverse too. You could have a locked door in CryptoVoxels. But yeah, we're really excited about that use case because it's really simple and it adds a ton of value for any project that's thinking about monetization in the decentralized web.
Okay, nice. So all great ideas in how to display and utilize the NFTs. And so in wrapping this up, what for each one of you, is there something specific that either you would let somebody know that is a content creator, a game developer coming into this space to help orientate them, or something that keeps you up at night, something that you're really just thinking about and is taking a lot of your mental cycles trying to understand it. So Alex, why don't we start off with you?
Okay, sure. Well, I think the biggest goal right now is to really grow the space. It's still very, very early for the NFTs. They barely like came to the surface this autumn, and this is just the beginning, guys. Let's do it together. Let's make the NFT space like 10 times bigger.
Yeah, I'm all about that. Devin, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's super early days for NFTs. I would say, yeah, I think the most exciting or the best way to learn more about the space is to actually go and try out the different platforms and interact with NFTs. Try one of the games, like try out Neon District. Try, I guess there's CryptoKitties from way back in the day, but there's now like a whole smattering of different experiences that you can have. I would say actually maybe CryptoVoxels is a good place to start, because you can just go and explore the world and see different people's galleries and check them out, and you can really, I think it's a really exciting field to even just jump ship from your day job and become like a full-time NFT collector, curator, artist, influencer. I think it's so early that there's opportunities to do that, even if you are very new to the space. Friend of mine, or I don't know, maybe some of you know Brian Flynn, but he was pretty new to the space like a couple of years ago. He was a PM at Foursquare, like just a standard tech company in Silicon Valley, and he just started learning more and more, writing a newsletter, getting deeper, and now he's sort of like made a name for himself. So I think because there's so many different projects, there's so much to get involved in, it's a really good time to like get deeper and more involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, shout out to Mr. Flynn and his jam sessions. It's a great newsletter. So Marguerite, how about you? Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of hackathons that are coming up. Maybe one of you guys remember the NFT one. I was just looking for it. There's one that Matic is involved in. But the Seed Club, the Twitter is Seed Club HQ. They're going to be doing a social token focused hackathon, and they're going to be doing a lot of them. So different creator tokens like myself will be putting up bounties for small hackathon projects, duration of like 3 weeks, of things we would like, tools we would like to have to better engage our communities via our social tokens. So that's definitely like, people are going to be presenting quite a bit of money for these tools because there's only so many developers to go around, right? So, and we're all trying to move faster.
Okay, James, and you, what the biggest pain point or any words of advice for somebody just coming into the industry?
I'd say, just make sure you're in it for the right reasons. I think we see a lot of emphasis on the speculation aspect. People want to buy the next big NFT or create the next big NFT, which is totally fair, and I want to support that as well. But I think we lose the potential for giving. The best experiences I've had relevant to NFTs involve receiving gifts or giving gifts. And many of the gifts I've received are intended to be given to other people to spread the word and, provide that experience of owning something digitally. And that's what I would encourage anyone who's not just learning, but you've learned some about NFTs and you want to share it with your friends who have no idea about blockchain. Just, create an NFT or find someone who can gift you one and share it with everyone else. I think that's what NFTs are all about in some ways, or in some contexts.
All right, and so last thing, just going to open it up. Does anybody want to ask any of the panelists any questions or have any curiosities? Okay, so thanks for joining us today, and thank you for the wonderful panelists, and look forward to making the NFT space more vibrant and keeping people informed. All right,
Thanks
so thank
for inviting.
you.